We are Danny and Laura Boyd, and our beautiful brokenness is an expression of what we are learning as we have journeyed with God through 31 years of marriage and raising 11 children. In our journey, we have encountered God's love and faithfulness as He rescued us both from death and addiction. We have seen His mercy and grace as we tried to earn His love, only to discover He freely loves us because we are His beloved children. We invite you to walk with us as we openly discuss the ups and downs we have faced and how we are more alive and in love with Him than ever before. Hello, welcome to another edition of Our Beautiful Brokenness, our podcast. It's a work in progress, as we are, so, and it's got its little ups and downs, but we are so grateful for you listening and watching, and we are getting feedback from different people just, saying they've listened and that it's a blessing and encouragement to them, and that's, what else could we ask for? Yeah. I mean, that's what we want. We were talking earlier about, our hope is just to tell you about God's goodness and put Him on display. Yeah. And then I'm thinking, the response to that, wow, I mean, the response to the best message in the world, there's no pressure on you. There's no pressure on us. Again, we were not trying to sell anything. No. I'm not trying to convince you. We're not trying to convince you of something, to do something. We just want to talk about how wonderful God is, yeah, how amazing He is, the relationship that we enjoy with Him. And we want other people to know about it, because we're thinking, man, if you knew that you could have the best of what you're created for, you'd want a part of that. You'd want to be, you'd want that too. And so, and that's our hope, is to be able to enjoy the profound and real and genuine, like, peace and joy that we are experiencing, not because we're so great and we're so amazing, but because God is so great, yeah, and God is so amazing, and because of Jesus, we have relationship with Him, and it truly is a relationship, mm-hmm, and we're still learning about it. It's still like an ongoing, yeah, learning thing, for us, like the beauties and the intricacies and the levels of, mm-hmm, of relationship, yeah, with Him. So it's an amazing thing, and we're talking about, there's no, like, it's never too late. Again, we're, experiencing these wonderful, rich moments with God in our 50s, but yet there's no time thing on it. Right. You could experience it at 12 or whatever, or anywhere in between, or older. You could be in your 70s, 80s, and maybe not have a relationship with God, not know Jesus, but in the moment that can change, mm-hmm, and then you can go, start plunging in, yeah, and it's worth it. Whatever the stage you're in or wherever you're at, it's worth it. Mm-hmm. It's because this is what we're created for. Yeah. We're created to thrive in relationship with God, and so we wanted to kind of reflect back. We came back from a long trip about a week and a half ago. Yeah. We were gone from home for almost 7 weeks. Yeah. Yeah. Almost 7 weeks gone from home, which is really amazing. It was awesome, incredible, and we have had some time to kind of reflect on the trip, and so we felt like God put it on our heart, both of our hearts, to kind of do that, to share some reflections with you of some things about the trip and some themes that kind of came out during the time. And so this is when we do podcasts, I don't know if we've shared this before, but when we do podcasts, we don't really script it too much. At least we haven't in the past. A lot of times we talk about what we feel like God wants us to share. We pray, and then we just kind of go run. And we even don't do it in multiple shoots. We just kind of, which may be painful, maybe real obvious, but we just kind of start and kind of go, and just kind of run. And it is, because again, we're not trying to impress anybody. We're not trying to, we are who we are. And it's awesome because God says we're awesome, yeah, and so we just kind of let God lead in that way. We got Holy Spirit in us, mm-hmm, and so we trust Him to come out. Yeah. So you want to share? I mean, jumping in,
Yeah.
any like thoughts on the trip, or like introduce
well,
the
first
trip,
of all,
or
I
whatever?
want to talk about it a little bit. So, if any of you guys have been listening to our podcast, you know that a year and a half, coming up on 2 years ago, God, Danny was released from his position at the church, and we talked about what are we going to do next? What are we, what are we going to do next? Where's the next paycheck coming from? And God was like, I want you to rest. I want you to remain. I kept hearing the word remain, and to rest and to not worry about it, which was like, okay, that's crazy. But that's what we did. And there's so many fruits that have come from that over the last several months. But one of the biggest, I would say the biggest, but one of the fruits has been that my sister Kathleen invited us on a 6-week trip with her. She rented her house out as an Airbnb this summer and was going to go to Italy, but COVID, and so she had a bumper pull camper trailer and a truck, and she's like, hey, let's go explore the West Coast and the parks and the beaches, and we said yes. We had the time.
Hello.
And
We could,
she was going to take care of the most of the expenses, and we fed her and us the whole time we were gone, and it was amazing. But if we hadn't said yes and obeyed back almost 2 years ago, then we would have not had the opportunity now to have experienced this trip. And it was amazing. We went from Oklahoma City to San Luis Obispo, just north of LA, and then we went to Sequoia National Forest, Kings Canyon, is that what it's called?
Yes.
And then Yosemite, Lake Tahoe, Northern California,
Coast,
on the coast, Redwood National Forest, then Crater Lake.
We're gonna miss something, but I
Big
think that's
Bend,
right.
and then we went to Bend, Oregon.
The
Oregon coast, Lincoln City. Then we went to Seattle, Mount Rainier, Olympic National Park, and Glacier National Park. I think that's
pretty.
I think we got most
good.
of that.
Pretty good.
So it was amazing. We
The
got
trip
to
of a
see
lifetime. I mean,
so many amazing things.
Yeah.
We got to and there's something that your soul reacts to when you see God's creation, and its power and its glory and its majesty. And even if you're a city girl or a city guy, get a nice cabin, but get out and see it. We did a lot of driving and looking at it from the car windows. Some easy hikes. I mean, would say I'm not the most athletic person, and so the longer hike, there was just the one that I didn't go on, but I had some of those walking sticks. It was like going everywhere with chair rails, and got to see some amazing things, some amazing aha moments with God and His creation and His beauty, His power and His majesty, and then just getting away. It was awesome.
It was, for sure. And it wasn't without sacrifice on everybody's part. I mean, obviously, large sister Kathleen, sacrifice of money and what have you, but it was a sacrifice of time. I mean, we were sacrificing our summer. I mean, we gave up time with our family, and if you don't, I mean, we have 11 kids, and only 3 of them went with us on the trip, and 8 of them were not with us. So we didn't spend a summer with them that we normally would have spent.
And the 2 grandkids.
And the 2 grandkids, I can't forget about Cash and Everly.
You guys are great too.
So that's time that was away, that was sacrifice. I mean, and it was hard. I mean, that was and church family. I mean, we missed friends and parents and all, I mean, so there was sacrifice involved. But again, it was one of those opportunities that we felt like when we prayed about it, it's like, how can we not take advantage of this? And we realized it's quite a privilege. I mean, it was quite a blessing, quite an honor to be able to do something like that. I mean, that not everybody can do. But we look back and we're like, man, it was worth any kind of sacrifice that we made. It was certainly worth it because of the things that we learned about ourselves and the things that we learned about God. I mean, it was just an incredible time of that. And so we want to share with you a few of the things that God taught us as we were out. I mean, I've read from, I believe it's John Mark Comer. I think I'm quoting, I don't remember what it is because I've listened to a ton of his podcasts and read books and what have you. But he talked about how, it takes 2 weeks, and he had some, there was some research that kind of backed this up, but it takes 2 weeks to like forget all the different things that are going on in the past and the present and the future, whatever, and just kind of get in the moment. Like get fully in the moment and kind of relax and let everything go. And we've never been on a 2-week trip, I mean, not full 2 weeks, away. We've been on close where we traveled some on that. So this was like the longest time we've ever been away. And I can just tell you there was something special about at a point, you just, all the routine and all the different things that are back from home.
And that occupy your mind.
Yeah, that are spinning in your head the whole time.
Meals and visits and, all the things, the yard and the animals and all the things.
And bills and this and that, which again, it is what it is when you're in the middle of it.
It's life. It's good.
Yeah, but to get away from it and then all of that kind of just start fading away.
Yeah.
And then there's like peace in your mind in a sense, and you're able to fully get into like, wow, okay, this is amazing and this is amazing in the moment. And people are, so it was great. It was really great. God was talking to me, I mean, as he always does, there were different things coming up in my heart. And, again, I went into this trip in a good space. I mean, we're in a, God's been so good to us and blessed us so much. And we're in, a depth of level of relationship with him. There's more to it. I mean, I don't think we'll ever hit the bottom or the depth of relationship with him. It just keeps getting sweeter and sweeter and better and better. But so we came into this trip in a really great place, and thinking, wow, I'm just gonna enjoy, and I'm just gonna whatever. But then these different things keep coming up in my heart. I'm like, oh, whoa, what what is that?
Yeah, it turns out if you take 6 people and you put them in a truck and a small camper for 6.5 weeks, then you start to see things kind of close.
Wow.
Reflecting back at you and other people, and actually the kids were great. The kids
Phenomenal.
were perfect. The adults had some issues God was working on, but they never had a bad attitude. They never fussed. They were
the
it was
best.
just the grace of God.
The best.
And that, but yeah, you're so yeah, you see some things. You've slowed down enough that God's like, hey, let's this little blind spot that you've had, I'm going to show this to you just really kindly and gently, and see if you're ready. You want to do something about it or what? It's good.
Oh, and there was, there was the positives so far outweighed the negatives that it doesn't compare.
Yeah.
I mean, there were so many more good things with our trip that they don't even compare to
there
were a few little things.
A little glimmer.
But we never had any like alone time.
Right, no.
There was no again, we had a bathroom in the camper that we were so grateful for.
Yes.
But that was like the momentary few times when you went to the bathroom were the only times you really had by
but
yourself.
there were 5 other people that probably needed to go.
So. But other than that, we're together all the time. And so these different things start kind of coming out. Well, God really began to speak to me about my attitude and really being positive. And people can tell you, I'm a positive person in general. That's some of that's personality, some of that's how God's made me. Some of it's, I was realizing this, some of that's just good, being in a good relationship with God.
Yeah.
Being in good space in relationship with God.
A great family.
Well, of course, I'm surrounded by, the best. God's given me the best wife and the best kids and these things. But wow, how can I not be in a good space when I'm in a good place with God?
Right.
But so I'm again a positive, I'm on the positives. I have no reason not to be on the positive side. So, but there were different.
And you're an Enneagram 7,
Yeah.
which if you do much, that's always like reframe, making sure this is it's all good. I love it.
So I'm, but there were different times that things were kind of coming up, and I'm like, I need to make sure my words are positive, my thoughts and, attitude and what's on my face and all that kind of stuff. Because that's how I feel. It should be reflected,
Right.
it should be what's actually coming out. So
you might even talk about how many hours that you drove.
Well, we drove, in all total, by the time we got back home, we drove a little over 8,000 miles. And we were in the vehicle.
And he did all the driving because he likes to drive.
We were in the vehicle for 220 something hours. So, that's like 9.5 days in the truck, driving
in the truck with 6 people in the truck.
Yeah. So again, a lot of time for God to speak to me while I'm driving, because we would either play music or sometimes it would just be silent, and my brain, like everybody's going all the time, and a lot of time God's speaking to me. But God began to talk to me about being positive in every way, and there was one time that it was in the early stages of our trip. We stopped at a Walmart to do some shopping, which is it's what you do. And so we're in the Walmart walking around. Well, I think one of the kids with me. Can't remember if it was one of the girls, but we were walking through, and I remember seeing this. There was a guy that we passed, and I remember looking at the guy. There was nothing special about the guy. Matter of fact, in all honesty, it was probably a guy that I probably typically, again, God's working all these different things out of my heart, to try and treat everybody with the same love all the time. But it's somebody that I probably would have normally just walked right on by and not necessarily engaged with. And there wasn't, again, nothing, but we kind of made eye contact. I remember us kind of locking eyes, but I sensed something was going on. I couldn't put my finger on it. And I'm a feely person. I feel things. I sense things on a spiritual level and sometimes on an emotional level and what have you. I can read people, and that's just God. That's just a God thing. Well, and something was there, but it was like in passing. So he, I go my way, he goes the other way, and probably, I don't remember however many minutes later, this same guy comes walking up to me. And while I'm walking around in the Walmart, God's talking, or I'm having this conversation in my mind with God about being positive. About reflecting that. And even in a Walmart store, right. I bring Jesus with me. I reflect, right. That I need to reflect Him.
And you have to remember, He's pulling a camper trailer all this time. So when we go into these parking lots, it's like, where am I going to park? What am I going to do? So there's like some little added stress trying to park and pull into places, and
my brain's all over the place, with that. But but again, I'm really, my heart is to represent Jesus because He's so insanely awesome. Yeah. I want people to see Him and be attracted to Him, and so I'm thinking about that. I need to change my attitude. While I'm walking through this Walmart, I really, that's my heart. So. I remember we were in the produce section, and this guy, same guy that I'd seen earlier, we kind of lock eyes, and he comes walking up to me and one of the kids that was with me, and he said, "What does your tattoo mean?" And I have several different tattoos on my arms that they're all representing different things that God has said to me over time, and I'm like, "Well, which one?" And he points to this arm, and he goes like, so he's like, "What does that mean?" And I'm like, "Well, that God said I'm an energy giver, not an energy taker." And he's like, "Oh," and then he walks off.
Another way that Danny has described his tattoo, put it up again, is that being positive is better than being negative. Yep. Bringing things is better than taking away.
And I may have said it along those lines because those are things that God has spoken, to me about it. And immediately, as soon as he walked away, I felt like God's like, "That's who you are," And I think, again, I have no proof of this. I have no proof whatsoever. I think that guy was an angel. I have no proof but other than I know God said, it says I'm pretty sure it's in Hebrews that you should, when entertaining strangers, you should be kind and whatever, because you never know, you might be entertaining an angel. Mm-hmm. And again, I have no proof that was but I really believe that it was that God sent to remind me that this is who I am, and just let it out. Be who He's created me to be. Yeah.
And just give a little bit more background on that. So not only is he driving the truck, pulling the camper, wind or whatever, drivers on the highway. This is California people. They drive in a different kind of way.
If you're from California, God bless you. I'm sure you're an amazing, wonderful driver. So courteous.
And then
sure
he
you are.
also has myself and my sister, just giving little informational tips on how maybe he could park better or drive or so there was some things that he was processing.
There were moments. There were certainly moments, and there were more moments on the trip that were happening for sure. But so that was just one, instance of that. And I can also tell you, I mean, along those same lines, again, that for me in the trip, that was a theme that was God was speaking to me. I started becoming really aware of how we were speaking to one another. Of how, I mean, the six of us, again, together all the time, how I became really, really aware of our speech. And not just like the what we were saying, but like how we were saying it, the tone, our facial expressions, all those kind of things. I started to become very aware of it. And initially because I was offended about how somebody else was speaking.
Right.
I mean, that was the initial, but then what God started using on the other side of that is like, oh, well, what about you? What about your facial expressions, and what about your tone, and what about the words you're saying? I mean, you're being real critical of other people, and the way they're speaking, but what about you? And I'm like, oh, wow, okay, but he was right. I mean, there were times that I was not showing love in the way that I was speaking. Not that my heart was bad.
Right.
Again, we've discovered this over time.
Right.
I mean, our heart's not in a bad place, but again, the goal of our communication is we want people to feel loved.
Yeah, because I know he doesn't mean to hurt my feelings. I mean, I know that.
I'm not setting out to do that. I mean,
so just a little marriage tip: when you're having a discussion with your spouse, that's not a good excuse. You didn't mean to hurt their feelings. They know that.
Spirited interaction.
They know that. They just want to be acknowledged that it happened, and you can still apologize.
Yeah.
If you've accidentally stepped on someone's toes, you can still say, "Oh man, I'm so sorry."
Yeah.
I
didn't mean to.
Right.
I know. I realize I did, and I'm sorry that.
Right. Yeah. So I didn't mean to is not. I mean, I know that if I thought you would come over and stomped on my toes on purpose,
I'd stomp on you. No, okay.
It'd be a whole different relationship.
I'm stomping on you.
We know that. So
yeah, for sure.
It was so good. We got to just really
think about that.
Yes.
And dwell and then be conscious of the way that we were speaking to one another.
Right.
And and so it was really good as far as like how it caused us to begin to think. Not that we got it all. I mean, because again, there were still times that it was like, ooh, but we became very aware of that. We became a lot more aware of our own speech, and a lot more of, hey, I need to be careful to watch the way that, again, what I say, how I say it, my tone and my facial expressions, because I want the person to receive what I'm actually saying.
Yeah.
And sometimes we say something, sometimes if what our words are mean, that's one, but sometimes our tone can be wrong, or our facial expressions, or body language, and people are offended. They get they get caught up in the way that we said it, and don't actually hear the heart behind it.
Right.
So I mean, if we want our speech to be received in the right way, we have to make sure we say it in the right way.
Yeah.
So people will hear our heart. And so our heart is accurately reflected.
And there's grace. I mean, there's so much grace on both sides, but this is what God was talking to us about
through the trip, for sure.
Yeah, and just to say, I mean, I would say 98% of the time, Danny always speaks kindly in our family to us, to the kids. He's had different areas where he's. I guess you can talk about that.
You think?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I guess. Wow.
Well, I started going. I was like, "This is not my story."
Oh, yeah. Under the bus.
No. You were going there. You were.
So. Yeah, I try to be careful. I mean, some of it's my makeup. I mean, some of it I believe is Holy Spirit. Just making me aware of, like, trying to be careful of how I speak to other people, because I don't like to be spoken to in an ugly way.
Yeah.
You know, I don't like to be, etc. So,
This is fun. Show your coffee cup.
my Oklahoma
see?
coffee cup.
You got Oklahoma, and then I've got Yosemite. I thought
Yeah.
that was interesting. We just grabbed these up, but anyway.
There you go. All the way. They're back.
They're back.
Right? I
Someone should write a book. They're back.
I was feeling pretty good about, how I speak. And at a point on the trip, again, God, doesn't unload with a double barrel shotgun on us. I mean, He's so gracious and speaks in a kind way, and then gives us space to respond. I mean, He doesn't, again, I've said this before, but He doesn't force Himself on us. I mean, He doesn't force us to make decisions. He doesn't force us to change. He doesn't force us.
I've thought about it recently that, He waits for our consent.
Yeah.
It's all about, there's an invitation, and then we have to consent. We have to say, yes, I want to enter into this with you. I want to enter into this conversation or relationship, or anyway.
Yeah, I'm open.
He's so aware of he has given us
free will. Yeah, to respond.
And then He's so aware of and careful with that.
Well, because,
honor,
and
he
again,
honors
that's,
us.
it honors, and it's love. I mean, that's genuine love. That's genuine love that doesn't force,
Right.
and gives the person space to make their own decision.
Yeah.
Again, that's how we want others to respond around us, not to feel coerced, or whatever. That's because that's not love. I mean, love gives the other person the space to say no if they want to say no, or say yes if they want to say yes.
Yeah.
So God was speaking to me, again, kind of later on the trip. I had this moment of, again, God and I conversing. He's like, you do God was saying to me, you do a really good job of how you speak to the people around you, speaking positively to the people around you and about the people around you. So, but you're not doing a very good job about speaking about other people, outside of your family.
I have to say, I don't know if you remember this, but the night before, he'd had a discussion with our kids about speaking nice to each other, making sure that what we're saying is kind, and not tearing each other down. And so anyway, I don't know if you remember that, but you had the conversation with the kids just that night before.
There you go.
And
because in Ephesians it talks about that our speech, our interaction is supposed to build people up.
Yeah.
It's supposed to encourage them. It's supposed to, be good for them, benefit them. And God was telling me, that's how you speak to the people around you. But when it comes to some other areas, that's not the way that you speak. And He was like, when you speak, when you're driving in the car, He's like, you say negative things about other people, drivers around you, and that's not good. I mean, you're not blessing them, you're cursing them in a sense, And then when you're watching like sporting events, instead of just focusing on the positive things that your team is doing and speaking about those good things, you speak negatively about the other team, And again, I'm cursing them in a sense, not blessing them.
plus all the people around you hearing it.
Are hearing it, and it's impacting them, And so I was realizing, wow.
Not that I've thought about that before.
I mean, I realized that I'm setting that example for my family. I'm setting that example for my kids. I'm wondering, where is that coming from? And then realizing, oh wow, okay, they're just reflecting me. I mean, they're just learning. They're just following my example because I'm speaking negatively. They don't know that just to keep it in a certain context or whatever. I mean, they just know that they're hearing negativity from their father, and that's something we do. Okay, well then let me, some negativity here. So anyway, God was really gentle to speak, to share that with me, and so I started trying to be a lot more careful
First
about.
He talked to all of us.
I asked for them to forgive me. I shared with what God said, and asked for forgiveness.
Because we were in the van for,
a lot of time.
a
lot of them hearing me talk about the wonderful drivers that were on the road, and there were some doozies out there, especially when you're driving. I'm driving this I remember how many 1,000-pound-foot travel trailer behind us, and so I can't stop that thing very quickly.
Yeah.
I mean, and so I would typically give myself lots and lots of space. I cannot tell you how many times people got in front of us with not much room at all, and sometimes without a blinker, and boy, that pushed all kinds of buttons that I had. And so I would, say I wasn't blessing them with my words,
Right.
So
Right.
I wouldn't cuss them
all,
out.
No, but it would get a little tense occasionally.
So anyway, that was some of what I learned.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want us to talk about one more thing as we close up this podcast, kind of reflecting on our trip, that kind of as we've come back, and this was a theme that started before the trip and was throughout the trip, and then even when we come back, was this idea of gratefulness.
Yeah.
I mean, we paused over and over and over again to talk about with one another, and then talk about with God how grateful we were to get to do all the different things that we were doing.
Yeah.
I mean, that we were grateful to be invited on this trip, that we were grateful for the opportunity, that we're grateful that we have the freedom of time, that we, and then as we're out on the road, grateful, man, I get to do this. I mean, I get to be in this space. I get to be in this place that's insanely beautiful and wonderful. I get to be in this space with these people that I love and I care for. I mean, I get to eat this food. I mean, I get to, wow. I mean, we just, gushed all those things. And not that there weren't challenges in our trip.
Right.
I mean, we faced some different challenges on the road and on the way. I mean, in various forms. And in those times, we could either choose to focus on the problem and, spew about the problem, or we could take care of the problem and then focus on all the things we had to be grateful for, and there was, again, the list is not even, not even comparable.
Not even comparable. Yeah, it's there's so much. This could be really long, but we're not going to make it very long. So much to be said about gratefulness and how it can change your life. I remember when I had like 5 small kids at home, and it was a lot. It was a lot of work back then. It was a lot. And Danny would walk in the door, and I would be like, I'm done. No one can talk to me. He'd have to wade through the stuff, to get to the couch or whatever. And it was hard. It was a hard time. And shout out to all you moms out there that have little kids at home. Mm-hmm. It's a lot. It's laying your life down every day. Mm-hmm. And good job, guys. Mm-hmm. But I remember we were at church one day, and Debbie Wells said something that has never left me. She said that we are commanded to walk in joy. There is be joyful all through. And I was sitting there thinking, you're not in my house. These kids don't listen to me. I'm the only one, all of the things going through my head. I'm tired. If I have to cut up one more meal, if I have to, it was a lot. And I was pregnant at the time too. And but she said, if we're not experiencing joy, it might be because we're not grateful. And she's like, if you're not experiencing gratefulness, it might be because you think you have something different than you deserve. And I thought, well, what I deserve, I've been saved from. I don't deserve to be blessed with this amazing husband and these amazing kids. If you guys have heard my testimony, I had killed 2 kids through abortion. I had been promiscuous. I did not deserve this life that I'd been given. So I was like, man, I need to be grateful. And then she said, sometimes the root of being ungrateful is pride. Thinking you deserve something different than what you have. That God has decided that He should give you. And so that really changed. It changed my heart. I'm like, I am grateful. I am grateful for these kids. I'm grateful for this mess. I am grateful that I get to feed them. I am grateful that I get to experience this with them. I am so grateful. And that same attitude can be taken, on the trip. We're grateful. We're not, it's not dwelling on the negatives. See it once again. Let's see. Not dwelling on the negatives. It's dwelling on the positives, which are so many. We live in America. I mean, we live in this country that, we're free to do what we want to do and go where we want to go.
What a blessing.
And gratefulness. Some of you guys may be sitting there going, you guys just had a long vacation that somebody else paid for.
And you're right.
I
mean, I can't argue that. I mean, and we're grateful.
We're so grateful.
I mean, gratefulness, it's, again, you really could, there's so much to be said about gratefulness and the blessing, the benefit.
Right.
If you're going to cultivate one thing, gratefulness, I think, is the thing to go for. And it's about perspective.
Yes.
Again, that perspective of, I'm getting better than what I deserve. I can either come from the woe is me, wow, things are so horrific. And again, I'm not downplaying anybody's circumstances.
Right.
At all. Here's what I know. I know people that have been through far worse than I have been through, and yet they're in a far better place because of their perspective. Yeah. And I also know people that have been through a lot less, and yet they're in a worse place because of their perspective. They feel like they're getting less than what they deserve, or not getting what, but yet we know people that have gone through hell. Horrible things, and yet they're in a great place in their life because of the perspective that they chose to take and the focus that they had. And so it's about, where's that focus?
Because you can choose joy. You can choose joy. You can choose to be a joy bringer, energy giver. Or you can choose to focus on the negatives. And I'm not saying that the negatives aren't real. Sometimes.
Oh my goodness.
Heartbreaking things happen. And there's nothing wrong with sorrow. And grieving things. We've done some of that these last couple of years. Grieving things and sorrow, but joy comes in the morning. At the
end of the day, where does your focus land? At the end of it all, where do you come back to and sit? Again, going back to the Psalms again, we've mentioned the Psalms a bunch.
Danny read all the Psalms while we were gone. I would get to one and
fantastic
stay.
Stuff. I got stuck a lot. But again, David, and primarily David writing the Psalms. Amazing. He'd pour out, things are terrible, blah blah. But he would ultimately come back to, but God, you're good. Yeah. But God, you're awesome. Yeah. But God, you're amazing, and I know you. Yeah. That's and again, this life is not the end.
That's right.
That's right. This life is not it. Even, things you may be experiencing the best or maybe experiencing the worst, but this life is not the end. And it's not the end objective. It's not the end goal. We have eternal life. Yeah. We get the best that's to come, and I don't know what that looks like exactly. I don't have to. Right. I know I'm experiencing amazing things just because I'm in communion with God right now. So,
one real quick. So we did get to go to Antioch, Seattle, which is called Mosaic, and it was amazing. So they have so many cool things going on up there. But he talked about lamenting and a prayer of lament, which is what David did a lot. And he talked about getting real with God about how you really feel. He knows. So don't try to sugarcoat your prayers and make them all churchy and,
please.
all this stuff. Be real with God about your feelings. And I thought he had a really good point. And then, and lamenting is basically complaining, but with feedback. Hearing back from God. And then he talked about finding a person who could be your safe person, prayerfully, that you could lament to, that you could be real with, and then be ready to receive from them. Yep. So you got to be real with your feelings. You got to get it out. You can't just stuff it down and say, I'm a good Christian, so I don't feel that way. We feel these ways. David's like, kill me now. I'm like, kill all them. He was serious. Yeah. Psalm 103. How long were you on Psalm 103 when we were?
A few days.
A few days.
It was good stuff.
And then it was cool. So we were up on the mountaintop in Mount Rainier, which was one of the most amazing, beautiful places. Glaciers, alpine meadows with wildflowers, waterfalls. I just bawled.
It was beautiful.
And we took a rest because it was it was a hike. It was up and down. And this lady, we sat down by her, actually. She was sitting there.
No, I think we sat down first, and then, or it may have been very mutual.
We're sitting by this lady.
Yeah, very mutual.
Resting.
I mean, yeah.
And Danny felt like God wanted him to read.
Yeah.
Out loud. The psalm. And so he did.
Yeah.
And she sat there, and as she got up, she's just like, thanks for reading that. That was amazing. It was so good. So just a little shout out to Danny for being obedient, but
God for being so good.
God is so good. His word is good. And
it's powerful.
Yeah, if God says do something maybe a little strange, just go ahead and do it.
Yeah.
So Psalm 103, this is my favorite part of it. You've rescued me from hell and saved my life. You've crowned me with love and mercy. You satisfy my every desire with good things. You supercharge my life so that I soar again like a flying eagle in the sky.
Yeah.
You're a God who makes things right. He gives justice to the defenseless. Lord, you're so kind and tender-hearted to those who don't deserve it, and so patient with people who fail you. Your love is like a flooding river, overflowing its banks with kindness. That's our God.
Yeah.
Like a flooding river overflooding the banks with kindness. He wants to just love you, rescue you, forgive you, heal you, all those things. But we have to obey. He doesn't force himself.
Yeah.
He definitely requires consent.
Yeah.
Every step of the way. But he has that for us.
Yeah. So that's, again, it's just us kind of reflecting on our trip. And it was, great. If you have, again, we've different people talking to us about different things, but if you had questions about trip, about our camping trip, if you have any of those places that we mentioned that we've been to, if you want any kind of input or thoughts on that, we would love to share and gush about how amazing, different places are that God has shared with us that we got to go to. We'd love to reflect on that. What's coming next for us is we're going to talk about parenting. We've said that a couple of times and hadn't, kind of dropped the ball or things have changed a bit.
I really think God had some more things to show us.
Yeah.
That's why I think
So we are actually going to launch into talking about parenting. We've done parenting seminars in the past and have, from parenting 11 kids over the 30 whatever years. We learned a couple things, and so we want to share some of the things that we've learned, and we've been so blessed to learn a lot of things and to get to try a lot of stuff out, and then learn a lot of stuff didn't work. But we want to kind of share some of the things that we've gotten from that. And so that's what's coming next. So look for that real soon. And we love everyone. We're incredibly available out there on our website, on Facebook, on Instagram, YouTube. I mean, you can message us, and we'd love to individually talk to anyone and tell you how great God is and how much we're loved by Him. So blessings to all of you, and we will talk soon about parenting. So there we go.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of our podcast. If you want to know more about our family and what God is doing in us, you can go to our website, OurBeautifulBrokenness.com. On our website, you can find other editions of our podcast, more about our story, and how to connect with us directly.